Hi everyone, it's Carrie, and I am so excited today. I am doing my first interview with Kelly-Ann Maddox, my good friend. For the past month or so, have been focusing a lot on business on my blog, putting out a lot of posts about my perspectives on business, and I'm really excited to have the chance to talk to somebody else whose business I really admire. Kelly-Ann and I are business running buddies, so we talk regularly and troubleshoot and just kind of shoot the breeze and support each other on our business journeys. And I know a lot of you are probably very big fans of her work, so I'm excited to have the chance to speak with her and get into her brain and get some of her business wisdom. So welcome, thank you so much for being here, Kelly-Ann.
Thank you, darling, for having me. I love talking to you. So it's just an extension of what we do every week. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yay! So most people watching this probably already know who you are, but just in case there's somebody who does not, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and tell us where to find you online as well?
Yes, I am a qualified spiritual counsellor. I'm a tarot reader. I am a psycho-spiritual, psychonautic shamaness person, um, I guess. And I do business mentoring and readings and spiritual counselling sessions with clients. And really, my work is based primarily around emotional and spiritual healing, emotional and spiritual empowerment, and emotional and spiritual creativity. And that's really what I focus on in the main. I like to put people in touch with their sense of autonomy in spirituality, in business, in relationships, any way that I possibly can. And you can find me on KellyAnnMaddox.com. Kelly-Ann has a little hyphen in between, so it's just Kelly-Annmaddox.com, and you can find my offerings there and my blog posts and so on.
Wonderful, and I will put links to your information below the video as well. Okay, so to start things out, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of your background with business in general. So I'm wondering, some people, ever since the time they were kids, they really had an entrepreneurial spirit and they had this like dream to always start their own business. So was it something like that for you, or was it more sort of the business unfolded naturally due to your interest in tarot and in spiritual growth?
I was not one of those people that was like obviously going to be an entrepreneur. I guess you know what? When we used to play as kids, most of the other girls would have babies and would play wife and would play cooking and would play like looking after the babies.
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, I would choose consciously not to have any kids. And there was a briefcase that my stepdad brought back from work. And I used to carry that around and say I was a business lady or I was a career woman or I was a teacher. So in that way, definitely you could tell that I was probably going to end up running my own stuff and not having children, which is what came to pass. But in terms of the word entrepreneur, the word business, the word corporate, even the word money, all of that shit used to make me come out in hives. Just really wasn't my bag. It frightened me. I had a lot of hang-ups about it. I didn't believe I belonged in that world. I thought entrepreneurs were people that were just so markedly different from me. So yeah, definitely I think that it's surprising and not surprising, if that makes sense. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, yeah. So can you then talk a little bit about sort of how you did get to where you are in your business? Because I know you started, if I'm correct, doing it as kind of a blog and just kind of wanting to share your passion. So can you talk a little bit about how you sort of got started and how it evolved to reach the point that you're at now?
Yeah, well, I got into tarot when I was really young. I always say it was like the age of 12 or 13, somewhere around there. Someone gave me a tarot deck. And then when I was 15, somebody else gave me a tarot deck. And it was like the universe was saying, no, really, though, you do need to learn tarot.
Yeah.
So I did that on and off and, throughout my life. And then in my mid-20s, I came back to it after quite a long time away from it. A boy broke my heart into 1,000 pieces, so the obvious answer was to go back to Rider-Waite Smith, who never once did that to me. And so I just started messing around with it again, and I didn't even have any books on it anymore. It had been that long, been like 4 years since I last really shuffled a deck, and I was like, I'm going to go back to that. That was always really fulfilling for me, and I've always loved it, and I've forgotten all the meanings, and I'm going to go back to it and really like kick some ass and take some names. And I felt like a blog would be the perfect way to keep myself accountable to my learning, to explore the cards in more depth. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna start a blog, and I loved it. And I still I still grin from ear to ear every time I think about that first blog post that I wrote and setting up my blog. And then I set up a Facebook page to try and get people that, because when you have a blog, a tarot blog, you know other tarot bloggers and you comment back and forth on each other's blog posts and stuff, but you're very much in that tarot world where everybody knows all the meanings of the cards. And I wanted to make an effort, and maybe this was subconsciously a little bit to do with business, but I don't think I knew it at the time, but I wanted to make an effort to connect with people who maybe didn't read the cards but were interested in readers or getting readings.
Yeah.
So that was how come the Facebook page came along, which I always would link my blog posts to. On the Facebook page, whenever I blogged, I'd always show people I've blogged. And then that moved on after a time to offering free readings on my Facebook page, which I did on and off for about 8 months, because I really wanted to give readings. You know, after a time I was like, I'm ready, I can do this. The more I branch out and give these readings, the more that, you know, I'll develop. I was really honest from the get-go. I was like, I'm not a fortune teller, I can't tell you who you're going to marry, that's not what it's about. I'm really interested in psychology and I just want to help people to develop in that way. And yeah, loads of people came to me for free readings, and when I finally started selling on Etsy, my very first clients were people who'd had a number of free readings with me, and they were like, you're charging now? No problem, where can I give you my money, kind of thing.
That's so awesome. I really like hearing about that, because I think, especially if someone's watching this and is maybe just kind of getting started out with a blog or even with a business, sometimes we can look at people who we perceive as being very established in their business, and we don't always see what has gone into getting to that point. So it's interesting hearing that for you, it was a very gradual, very like natural unfolding, just kind of following, well, this is sort of what would be the next step from here based on what I've done so far. It wasn't forced, it was just kind of natural.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually think I did a blog post about this quite recently about how it's supposed to take time to build a business. It's not supposed to happen overnight. It would be really screwed up if it did happen overnight. It's just not supposed to, not in this industry. Like, and I used, like, I love Gaia Rodriguez on YouTube, and I remember her talking about spiritual business, and she said, we're not selling sneakers here. Like, and I was like, girl, that is so the thing that needs to be on a t-shirt. We're not. It's not supposed to be an overnight success. Oh, I saw that on Instagram and I quite fancy it. This is about like asking people to entrust you with their deepest thoughts, their most marked insecurities. You know, like, you have to show up and you have to prove that you're consistent, that you are willing, that you are in service. Why should people trust you when you've been around 5 seconds? Why should you be able to leave your job after a couple of months? No, that's not how it's supposed to work. And so I think people that are full-time now, as I am, should definitely talk about their experience of getting to where they are, because it's never overnight success. I took the elevator and I got to the top kind of thing. It's never like that. And more people coming into the game need to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that you and I talk about a lot, and I know it's something that we're both kind of passionate about, that we've learned through our direct experience, that it is a matter of building trust with people. And another thing I think is really important, kind of tying into something that I see in you a lot and that you've kind of talked about already so far, is that you have to first and foremost have this deep-seated passion for what you're doing. I know you've mentioned before that you would be speaking about these things even if you didn't have an audience and even if you didn't have a business based around it, because you have that really deep-seated passion in what you're talking about. And I think that's another thing that's really important for people to put their focus on when they're kind of trying to build a business around what they're interested in, is you have to really be consistently portraying that and letting people see that you have that within you.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And I think there is kind of, there's a how can I put this? We need to be aware, right, that not everybody that wants to have a successful spiritual business, card slinging or whatever, is meant to have one and should have one. Like, I think there's this misconception, not only in spiritual business, but in a lot of different areas and aspects of life, that if you quite fancy something, and if you get an excited feeling when you imagine doing something, then that means you should do it, you should have it, you will have it, you're born for it. Wrong? No. No. I know that sounds really harsh and maybe a little tough loving, but you've got to consistently, like you said, show up. You've got to live it. You've got to live it whether you've got 50 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers. Like, it's got to be something that you wake up every day and want to do. And I think that the more that for example, platforms like Instagram have come along, where it's basically this incredible sort of curated art gallery of gorgeous decks and crystals and lovely setups and candles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I like that shit. I'm not against it. I have an Instagram. I post pretty shit on it, you know, I do. But I feel like with the rise of platforms like that, and with everything becoming quite polished and everybody really into the aesthetics and the branding, yeah, there are going to be plenty of people that pass through and on their way they go, oh, I could really do with being full-time doing that. I love decks. I mean, I love shuffling decks and giving readings. I can really imagine myself doing that. That's fine, but that doesn't mean that that's what you should be doing, or that it is what you should have. Like, once you've made the association between yourself, your pleasure centre, and the idea of being a reader, then you've got to rock up and do the work and do it over and over and over again. And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, do you know what? It was a nice idea. Like, I like watching people do it on Instagram, but this ain't for me. Like, you know, and people will drop out, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole conversation is reminding me of something. I've probably shared this with you before in some of our personal chats, but in Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, she talks about whatever you want to do as a creative person, or in this case as a business person, is going to come with a shit sandwich. And you have to be willing to eat the shit sandwich that comes along with that thing. And to put it bluntly, you know, one of the things that comes along with our type of work is that you do have to build everything up, and you do have to be willing to be consistent, and you have to be willing to take the time, and you have to be willing to prove yourself. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as calling that a shit sandwich, because it's good and it's how you earn your cred and it's how you prove yourself. But it is one of those things that if someone isn't willing to really commit to that and isn't willing to kind of be in that game, then, as you said, doing something like this is probably not going to be for them for the long haul.
Totally. And like you said, it's not really a shit sandwich, but it's like your ego will feel that it is.
Exactly,
like your ego will always feel some type of way about that shit sandwich, because your ego wants it now, and your ego wants like the numbers and the validation and the growth and the expansion, and maybe even other things that are specific to your situation. Like, you want to prove your family members wrong when they say this isn't a real job, or you want to, you know, whatever. Like, everybody's situation has these things that peck away at the ego and kind of make you think, oh, I really want to be full-time and successful and profitable, and I want to get this moving, I want to push it. So yeah, it's a shit sandwich for the ego. Like, when I think about a shit sandwich on a practical level, for me it's accounts, taxes, filing, paperwork, going to see my accountant and having him lecture me about stuff. But like the actual egoic shit sandwich is, it's always going to be those little injured feelings of like, oh, who am I, or maybe other people are better, or maybe they can be more mainstream in a way that I can't be, or those things kind of thing. They're always the real shit sandwich. And when you're first starting out, it's smart. You want to wake up and find you've earned like 1,000 subscribers overnight or whatever, and it does play on people's minds. I don't think they're bad for that. I think they need to learn how to focus on other stuff, and that's what I teach in my mentoring sessions and stuff, you know. But I don't think people are bad for that. It's normal. It's absolutely normal to want everything to go really fast if that's what you really want, but it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, it's so true. I always think that it's kind of almost in a way a gift for you if you are somebody who wants to build a business based on coaching or based on mentoring or based on any kind of guiding or giving advice to other people. Because if you go through these struggles personally of, you know, having your ego come up and wanting things to move very quickly, you're forced to confront that within yourself. And through the process of confronting that within yourself, you gain insights and you gain the personal experience, not just platitudes and not just something you read in a book, but you gain the personal experience of, I've been through this, and here are some tools and resources and mindsets that helped me, and now I have that wisdom to give to my clients and the people I'm working with. So that's how I always kind of try and frame it when it comes up for me is, oh, this is good because I can address this, and then this will actually make me a stronger mentor and a stronger guide for the people that I work with.
Definitely, exactly. Every shit sandwich is a blessing because you can pass that on. You're right, you can pay that forward.
Oh, that's a tweetable, Kelly-Ann. Every shit sandwich is a blessing. I love it.
Oh, funny. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of people reading that without context, like without having seen it, so just going, where did that come from, babe?
Yeah, no kidding. So another thing I think is sort of a skill set that I see within you is that you I know you said you weren't always this way, that you had maybe not, you didn't always associate yourself with being an entrepreneur, being a business person, but with where you are now, like you mentioned, you do business mentoring, you talk about business, and I see a lot of people who they just want to do the creative side. They want to do the readings, they want to do the mentoring, they want to do the whatever it is, but they kind of have a lot of resistance and they don't so much enjoy the business side. So I'm just kind of wondering what it is about business that has led you to kind of embrace that side. Like, how do you kind of marry the business side and the creative side?
By business side, what do you mean specifically?
I guess by business side, I mean anything to do with marketing, with promoting
Okay.
yourself, with, you know, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
Because yeah, when I initially when I think of business side, I think of like taxes and shit, like pretty
Yeah, yeah.
practical things.
Some of that stuff we're probably never really going to enjoy, but you know, you do teach people about building a platform and,
Yeah,
you know, doing social media and things that
do.
are, some people don't want anything to do, like they consider that's like the business stuff and they just want to do the art and the creativity and all of that kind of thing. And I do think, of
Yeah.
course, they can be married, they can merge together, but what are your thoughts on that?
I'm fascinated by how we can take these things that are spoken about a lot in the corporate world and in the, in mainstream business paradigms, and how we can make it feel livable for us, tolerable for us, enjoyable for us, even incredibly pleasurable for us.
Hmm.
I think that's really interesting. Now, I think where it becomes interesting is where you can really bring people on board with it. Like words like marketing and networking and promotion and sales, like they're just horrible words for a lot of people like us who, wake up in the morning and align our chakras before we have our cocoa pops or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
so it's
yeah.
really difficult. And I feel like if we can talk about alchemy, if we can talk about it being an alchemical process where we take these things that we need in order to make a cross and that we've got to understand in order to be serious about our craft, we take these things and we put them through an alchemical process of making them soulful, heart-centered, spirit-led, genuine,
Hmm.
and making sure that we don't need to check our self-respect and our integrity at the door in order to bring these things into our business. Once we talk about it as alchemy, alchemy is a word that many of us really love. Like, it's a nice
Yeah.
word. It's like, yes, I understand what alchemy is. I know all the symbols and everything. And
Mm.
so I feel like if we can talk about it like we're transitioning it, we're taking these tools that we need to make money and we're focusing on how would this feel good for me? Like, what is the best way of doing this so that it feels spiritually profound for me and so that I don't want to eat my fist or kill myself or hide under the covers when I do it?
Yeah, exactly. That reminds me of another thing I wanted to talk about, which is that you run this really great Facebook group called Heart-Centered Small Business Owners, and I'll link to that as well. So you've kind of, I think, started already going in this direction, but what to you kind of defines a heart-centered business owner, and how is that maybe different than more of a traditional business paradigm?
A heart centered business owner is somebody whose business is a reflection of some of the deepest and most integral parts of themselves. And that's kind of stage one of what heart centered business is.
Yeah.
So when you say things like, oh, it's business, it's not personal, like Leona Dawson always says, it is fucking personal because my business is deeply fucking personal to me.
Right.
And I totally vibe with that. Yes, yes, it's true.
Yeah.
My business is a slice of my soul. Don't tell
Mm-hmm.
me it's not personal, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's stage one. Stage two is that not only do you have a desire to make your business into a receptacle for the essence of you, that you also have a desire to connect with the essence of your clients. So your
Mm-hmm.
clients are not just people that conveniently have some cash that are looking for something on an Etsy search and you're trying to tag your stuff so that your stuff comes up. Your
Yeah.
clients are not just faceless people that are going to help you pay your rent. Your clients are an intriguing and intrinsic part of the process, and they are your teachers, they are your gurus, and the love and respect that you have for them is the second part of it. It's about making that connection, and it's about seriously valuing your clients, not just in terms of what they represent to you financially, but in so many other ways than that, and so many more important ways than that. So those are really the two main things. The third thing that I think would indicate that your business is heart-centered goes back to what we were just talking about the alchemical process of business strategies, putting them through that spiritual lens. A heart-centered business owner is not interested in aggressive competition. They're not interested in stamping out you know, the people that they are in the same industry with. They're not interested in that kind of thing. They don't like that kind of language. That doesn't make sense to them. And it's really got to be a genuine thing. There are some people out there who will attempt to kind of surf the heart-centered paradigm, but they don't really mean it. And you know what? That's okay. They don't have to mean it. They can totally want to destroy the competition. It's fine. But people that are heart-centered business owners, they normally just come to a point in their business life or at the beginning of their business life where they realise that mainstream business advice is horrible for them. It feels yucky, it feels competitive, it feels toxic, and they instantly are like, this is not for me. I do not like this. I like business advice which is centered more on how I can still be me and still be kind and make friends with other people who sell readings instead of trying to stamp them out or steal their shit or whatever. So yeah, it's about that. It's about realising that the mainstream stuff doesn't do it for you and you want a different way of operating.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that kind of reminds me of, I wanted to ask you about, because there are so many people who teach mainstream business, and there's even so many people, I think you were kind of alluding to this, that talk about, they use words like heart-centered, or they use kind of terminology that alludes to spiritual businesses, but I think sometimes we can sense that there's not always the intention that we're looking for with them. So I'm kind of wondering, who do you look to for inspiration? You know, you inspire a lot of people for heart-centered business. Who are some people that you admire that you think are kind of like walking that talk of heart-centered business?
The people that instantly come to mind are the people that I actually run with, like you, Joanna DeVoe, like Teresa Reed, Eric Silvermoon, like my actual mates, my peeps, you know. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Is just the people that I admire and the people that I've watched flourish are the same people that I have the privilege of being able to speak with and hang out with and have conversations with. So that's really fortunate. Now Teresa and Joanna DeVoe, I particularly admire them for their prolificacy and their consistency. Like, it's just crazy. They're like bottomless wells of content. And I also really admire them for just being supremely type A, because I have to really push myself. I'm a reluctant type A, and I've got a video coming out soon about this, about planning and about forcing myself to be type A. And I feel like if you looked up type A in the dictionary, there would be like pictures of Joanna and Teresa there, like, because they're just like, they're on schedules and they're like consistent, and if they say they're going to deliver something, they're going to deliver something, and everything's just rolling, you know. I remember when Teresa Reed interviewed me for her blog, and I sent her the answers, and she was like, okay, thanks, this is scheduled to go out in like, and she gave me the date, and it was 4 months time. And I wrote back and I was like, I'm floored. I mean, does that mean you've scheduled your blog for the next 4 months? And she was like, yeah, I always run like 4 to 6 months in advance. That way, if I need to just take my foot off the gas, I'm not in a situation where I've got no content. And I was just like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Oh my God, you're like goals. You are goals, 100%. Yeah. It's amazing. And then, I mean, I've had a video reading from Eric. I've had a video reading with him, and I like his attention to detail. I like the aesthetic. I like how passionate he is and how much he wants to give you the whole experience. It's not just a reading, it's the whole package. He wants to give you the essence of himself. What I like about you is that we're very much on the same psychological. That's how come we first became friends, because we were like, right, Jung, you're talking about Jung, I'm talking about Jung, you're talking about this, I love psychology, so do I. So that was perfect. But what I really admire about you lately is how gracefully you have transitioned from Happy Fish Tarot to Carrie Mallon, and that's something that I got to watch you do because you're a friend of mine, and I loved that. It was fascinating and cool, and I think that you can freak yourself out and stay stuck in a little box, because you know that's how people have come to know you, and when your business is slowly growing all the time and you're getting new clients all the time, you don't want to phase or confuse anybody. But I feel like you absolutely just cognitively recalibrated that, and you were like, I have wings, I'm in a cage, my wings are trying to grow and they're in a cage, so I need to just break out. And it was just done so effortlessly. And also, you know what, new age hipster, because she just can, she could literally apply her aesthetic and branding to a bag of actual dog shit, and I'd be like, where do I sign up? Where can I buy that? Oh my God, I need to put that on Instagram. Like, she's just literally, she's visually, aesthetically, she just knows what is up. She's already like iconic. I love a woman that can just be iconic. Like, she probably rolls out of bed in the morning and she has a look and she hasn't even run a comb through her hair yet. And it's like, woo, girl, you're really giving me some Breakfast Club right now. Like, I don't know how she does that, but some women are just born that way, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree on all counts. Those are all people that I very much admire as well. And one thing that I was thinking about, particularly when you were talking about Teresa Reed, the tarot lady, and Joanna DeVoe as well, there's a very particular trait that they have that I really admire. Going back to the whole heart-centered business owner thing, there's this whole kind of tightrope, I think, that heart-centered business owners have to walk between being very genuine and being very authentic, but also being very much a badass entrepreneur. And I think that, Teresa is a great example of somebody who is unapologetic about running a tight ship, about having schedules, about having boundaries. She's very kind and very generous, but she also has that like badass business bitch thing going on, and I really respect people who can pull off both of those vibes so well, like those two.
Yeah, definitely. I love that as well, because when you're in this kind of industry talking about this kind of stuff as well, you do get this feeling that people expect you to be like, people just expect you to not actually, let a bitch know. Oh, sorry for that's how I feel though. But it's, every so often in the comments I have to say, you need to stay in your fucking lane.
Yeah.
Off you trot. Like, and I have to do that. It's just part of it. And I wonder if people do look at me doing that and think, oh, she must be having a bad day. I'm not having a bad day at all. It's called boundaries. And I wouldn't be where I am right now if I couldn't alert people to where my boundaries are and let them know that they've stepped over and they need to just back off. And I do think in spiritual business particularly, there are so many people that really struggle to step into their Queen of Swords power because they feel like, but I'm doing spiritual stuff and I'm doing readings, I'm teaching self-love and I'm teaching, these that like, it doesn't feel right to go into the comments and say, you need to back up. But it's just like, you know what, if you don't every once in a while, and if, for example, as well with stuff like people emailing hundreds and hundreds of questions to you, if you don't have a canned response that says, I'll put it in the next Q&A, but I can't respond to individual questions, then again, it's about stepping into that Queen of Swords power and realising you've got to take your time back. You've got to invest it where it needs to go, which is in your content, in yourself, and in your clients. You haven't got time to answer everybody's questions. Tell them that. It's okay. And if they feel some type of way, then they're not supposed to be a part of your audience or your tribe. Simple.
Yeah, that's so good. I like that metaphor of thinking of it as the Queen of Swords because it's so appropriate, especially for those of us who are in the tarot world and everything. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Danielle Laporte, who is somebody else that we all admire as sort of the next tier of heart-centered business. She talks about having a wide open heart with a big fucking fence. And I think that that's something that is very crucial for us heart-centered business types, kind of having that approach where we do have an open heart and we are generous. We are willing to give, but we also know where our boundaries are and we know how to stay firm in those.
Oh, mate, I've literally listened to that particular SoundCloud recording. Like, I've sent it to several clients as well.
It's so good.
Like, yeah, I love it. It's so true. And it's like the fact that she said that to her son is just like everything to me. It's like if you're going to have a kid, drag it up like that. That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Raise a kid with that kind of value from that age. That's amazing.
I'll link to that below as well in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about.
To it.
It's
so
wonderful. Good. So we've kind of already started talking about some things along this line, but I wanted to sort of zoom in on this a little bit because I know you have the Facebook group, you do business mentoring, all of these things. You talk to a lot of people who are fellow heart-centered business owners. So maybe either elaborating on things we've already kind of gone into a little bit, or maybe if there's anything we haven't yet talked about, what do you see as sort of some common things that people struggle with as heart-centered business owners, and what is your sort of approach or your advice to help them navigate that?
There are some key things that come up over and over again. I know you do mentoring as well and will have seen similar things, and obviously we're both in the Facebook group, so we're privy to a lot of people. I mean, we've all spoken about our insecurities and our hang-ups, our resistance, the problems that we go through, so there's definitely some key things that come up. Some of the ones that I personally see are to do with time management like making the most effective use of your time when you're building your business and not falling into like, you know, the Instagram vortex or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Money is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually designing a workshop just about that at the moment, because it's really about like people struggle with the idea of charging money for spiritual services, charging what they're worth, all of that. So many money monsters, so many hang-ups of that nature. And another thing that I think is really big, that I see come up over and over again, is people being afraid of copycatting or imitating or not being different enough or not holding their authentic truth. There's a lot of that. In fact, in like during Wonder Worker Week, which is going to launch in May, I do one like every half a year. I've got 4 kind of exclusive biz riffs that I'm selling as an add-on, so you can kind of dive deeper. And one of them is about kind of like imbibing influence but avoiding imitation, because people are so freaked out, especially because a lot of people did come onto this journey through watching certain other people and being like, I've got something to say too, I can do this. But then they have to ask themselves, hang on a minute, is this my journey, or am I watching this person and like just ripping their shit and not actually bringing my own stuff to the table? And that's a massive fear for all kinds of people. People actually don't know whether or not they're doing that and kind of need to understand whether or not they are, you know. So that's an insecurity. And the competition thing as well, definitely. Just people kind of just feeling envious or feeling like, I need to be where she is, I need to be where he is, I'm not there yet, I feel bad, I feel jealous, how can I get a little bit of their shine and take a little bit of shine away from them? And people know that it doesn't feel good. But it's about training yourself out of that. That's not helpful for anybody, you know. So yeah, there are things that come up in terms of the money thing, which I think is one of the biggest and most recurring things that I see. I really think it's about recognizing that money itself is just an inanimate object. It's just dead matter. It's the symbol of a system which is very corrupt and which is currently failing. However, you cannot single-handedly smash that system overnight. You need to figure out a way to exist within it. Whether or not you are also working to dismantle it is absolutely your business. And I know that a lot of spiritual people are. And I think that's cool. But right now, at this precise point in history, where we are in the world, we cannot pay our rent with good vibes, okay? So we need to find a way to exist inside the current paradigm without feeling as though thriving in the current paradigm is somehow innately bad or inherently negative. And I think once you break that down, and sometimes it does take a good, long, hearty conversation with somebody else who's been through it, who's come out the other side of it, but once you actually break that stuff down, you realise that there are many things that you can do with your life to make money in a way that feels good. And the more money that you make, the more you can actually put money back into these causes that matter to you and these things that, you know, that kind of mean something to you. I remember the first few times I used money that I'd made on my readings and donated it to charities because I had enough money. I had enough money to cover my costs, to cover my rent and stuff like that. And it felt so good to be like, I can donate this. Like, and you know what? It's better to make the money and then be like, I don't need this. Let me put it to somewhere where it will go and be of use, than it is to be on your arse perpetually, scraping money together, trying to make the ends meet because you've convinced yourself that money is innately negative. That's wrong, and it's only going to keep you down. It's not going to smash the system. It's just going to make you feel like shit. The system will continue to thrive, but with less well-meaning hippies in it. So really, it's your duty almost. It's your sacred duty to try and be affluent, because you do better shit with the money than Donald Trump. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something. A lot of what you're describing reminds me of kind of things that I've heard from someone like Leona Dawson, and I know you really admire her approach. I think it's such a cool time that we're living in because perhaps the internet becoming such a huge thing has really been a big part of this sort of feeling like there's this uprising of people who want to do business in a different way and of people who are really drawn to the heart-centered perspective. So it seems like maybe the entire paradigm can start to slowly move in this direction, and I almost like to think that people like us are sort of pioneering that, and that, you know, eventually it's already getting to the point where running a heart-centered business is not necessarily seen as a fringe thing, whereas maybe even not too long ago it could have been. So I think you're right, you know, it's just kind of a matter of letting yourself have that permission to do good with money and to get right with your relationship about money so that you can help make the system better than it currently is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you've kind of talked about this a couple of times already, but you, of course, do business mentoring in addition to doing tarot readings and spiritual counseling and all of the other beautiful work that you do. So I was wondering just a little bit about kind of how you got to the point where you decided you wanted to do business mentoring in addition to doing the other things. What was it that kind of sparked you to want to start offering that service?
Requests, to be quite frank, just literally people emailing me and saying, do you sell business mentoring? Can you offer me business mentoring? And people asking me questions about business. I had many requests at one point, like before I did the business mentoring. People would just be emailing me asking to pick my brain about stuff. And I realised that it made a lot more sense for me to actually just start offering mentoring.
Yeah.
And so really it was that. It was by popular demand, really, that people just wanted to ask me questions about business and actually get into a dialogue with me. And they wanted me specifically to look at their businesses or their business plans and give my perspective, which is a huge compliment. And I'm really grateful that that was kind of something that people did want, because I found that incredibly sweet. And business mentoring was not something I was ever thinking of doing. So it was nice to have that validation and feel like, oh, okay, people want this other thing from me now, and it's quite affirming. It's really nice. It's like, oh, I've gotten to a certain point where people see what I'm doing and they actually want to discuss. They don't want to have a reading or partake of my services. They want to know actually that other tier of thing where it's like, how are you actually selling your services? How are you making it consistent and profitable? That's what I want to do. And I thought that's a really interesting other little string to my bow. So that's how it started.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to hear, because I think that that's really a good lesson for people in general when you're still in the place of maybe trying to figure out what you want to do or kind of still like fleshing out your business. It's really interesting to just look at what are people already coming to me for? What do people ask me about? What do people naturally gravitate to me for? And that's often something that you can kind of utilize within your business. So that's really cool. And that's sort of similar to what happened for me as well. I got passionate about the tarot and the personal growth and the spirituality side, and then I started getting really passionate about the business side, and I have people ask me questions about the business side, and so it's sort of like pay attention to what people come to you for and what people want from you, and take advantage of that. Use it for the good of everybody.
Definitely, and I think a lot of people that have businesses can get hung up for quite a while about whether or not they should be teaching business and whether or not that's okay as something to kind of add to their repertoire. But the way that I see it is this: if people consistently request it of you, you're ready, you're good, people want it from you.
Yeah.
They want it from you, then no doubt 9 times out of 10 it means you're ready to actually offer it because people are asking for it.
Yeah. Okay, one of the last things I want to ask you about, but I'm very excited to ask you about this because something that is so wonderful and special about what you have done is that you have created a very engaged, very present audience. People want to take in your content, people are deeply connected to your content. And that's something that a lot of people who are maybe trying to grow their own businesses, they want that. They want to kind of have this audience. So can you talk a little bit about what that's looked like for you, and maybe if you have any, little nuggets of wisdom for people about creating that connection and creating that engaged audience?
Yeah, I really feel like it's about putting your passion into it 100%. I feel like my content just comes from a really joyous place. It just comes from a place where I am really excited about it. Everything that I make a video about, I'm thrilled to make a video about it. That's why I've actually, in kind of quite a Queen of Swords style way, have said often that I will not just do whatever's requested of me. People have requested all kinds of shit from me over the years, and I've taken it under advisement. I've put it on a list. But it's got to really kick me in the pants to make me want to do it. It's got to be something that I go, yeah, I would like to talk about that or write about that. That is juicy. If I'm not getting that, I am not going to supply it for people. I just will not. It would be a dead video. I would look at it forever afterwards in the kind of repertoire of what I've done on my channel and go, that one's just not got me in it. It's just not got that flavour. I did it because people requested it. I really didn't want to do it. And that's not going to happen. That's not me. I'm not the one. I have to, everything that I do has to come from this place of, oh, I really love this. I can't wait to get this out. I'm so excited, kind of thing. And that's why I do like the free little e-guides that are full of collage and stuff, because that's the kind of shit I just do in the middle of the night anyway. So it kind of makes sense sometimes to create something that I can scan and put on the internet. I just really like that feeling because I'm doing it from a really joyous place. And the fact that I've got people to share it with makes it really exciting to just be like, do you know what, I'm going to make something to share. So I really feel like it's got to come from a place that makes you feel propelled into it and you've got the drive to do it. And that means looking at your own experience as a vital part of your branding in business. People always have these hang-ups about who am I? Why do I want to serve? What have I got to say? I haven't sorted all my own shit out yet. Who am I to want to help anyone else? My life hasn't been remarkable, blah, 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 blah. There's only one you in the known galaxy, you know, and only you can speak about your specific experience, and only you can take inspiration from those things that you've been through that nobody else will ever understand. You can closely match somebody in terms of your philosophies or experiences, but there is only one you, and you have your own special seed of divinity to bring to the proceedings. So I feel like when people are bypassing that in favour of looking at what other people are doing and what's trending and what are these people writing about and what should I do to convey this thing that people seem to be connecting to. No, do you. Do you. It's so important. And if you're not doing you, then you're not going to last anyway, because who the hell can really get that mileage where it's like 4 years down the line and I'm still going strong? Who can do that when they're wearing a mask? So yeah, I've seen people come and go that clearly just haven't had the impetus to continue because they're thinking about what's trending, what people want, how to be more like somebody else, and actually that will not make it go the distance. You've got to be you, and you've got to write about and make videos about what matters to you, and that's how you'll get the longevity. And with longevity comes profit and a full-time gig and an engaged audience, you know.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I think about this a lot. I've been thinking about this a lot, particularly lately as I've been talking more about business on my blog and whatnot, that people can sense the energy that went into the creation of what they're taking in. And so I think that just as you were sort of saying, when people look at your videos, when people read your posts, they can feel that you have that love and that you have that integrity and that you have that good vibes going on behind what you're saying. And I think that's why people resonate with what you're doing. And I think that's a good message for anyone who wants to build a following, is to get on board with what they are saying and to be very immersed in speaking from a very authentic, genuine perspective, because that's what people crave and that's what people resonate with. Another thing, I think you and I have talked about this several times, and this reminded me a lot of what you were talking about, is the difference between asking ourselves, what should I do in my business? What should I talk about? What should I blog about? What should I write about? Versus, what do I want to write about? What is beckoning to me to speak about it? And there's such a big difference between what comes forward with what you create online when you're coming from that energy of what do I actually want to do?
Yeah, totally, 100%. It's because at the end of the day, yeah, things do trend. Like, topics do come around. Different forms of branding and aesthetics come around. Different philosophies kind of peak and then taper off. So if you're constantly looking at what is externally going on, you know, if you're looking at that landscape as a kind of indicator for what you should be doing, then you're never really going to be putting anything new into the proceedings anyway. You're never going to be that fresh blood. You're constantly going to be following around other people, hoping they drop crumbs, you pick them up, you all end up doing the same thing. You know, it's kind of one of those things where if you go from a place of what do I want to talk about, that's actually where a lot of the most authentic stuff comes up. The stuff that hasn't been done before, or hasn't been done for a while, or hasn't been written about exactly like that. Because you're thinking about what you want to talk about. And 9 times out of 10, what you want to talk about is not going to be what's trending right now in the spiritual community. It's going to be something personal that happened to you. And you could start a conversation from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Okay. I don't want to keep you too much longer. So, as we are leaving on that awesome note, because what we were just talking about there, I think there's a lot of depth to that. In conclusion, can you talk a little bit about what's coming up soon? Because I know you already mentioned you have Wonder Worker Week, which is going to be going on soon. So do you want to give us a little taste of what we can expect with that, or anything else you're working on that you want to just kind of get excited about for a moment?
Yeah, well, in terms of business, I'll keep it on topic. Wonder Worker Week is something that I do every 6 months. The last one I did was in November, and before that, I had like Wonder Worker Biz Riffs on SoundCloud that I would bring out like once every few months. Wonder Worker Week is something I intend to do every 6 months from now on. The next one is coming along between May 16th and 22nd. I'm going to be blogging about business. I'm going to be putting out SoundCloud audio files about business. I will probably do 1 or 2 YouTube videos about business, which I do not normally bring that topic onto YouTube, but this time it's happening. And on top of that, I have a purchase option over on my shop at the moment called Sweet Alchemy. It's going to be 4 oh look, bless me, 4. There we go. Four videos, and I'm going to give them out as video and audio. So anybody who wants to pay to get on the email list, you will get the video from me, but you will also get an audio recording of the video, so you can listen to it on your iPhone or whatever as you're like doing your business, going for a walk or whatever. And they're biz riffs, they're exclusive biz riffs, tackling 4 big things that I come across in business when I'm counselling, mentoring people in business. These are 4 things that come up that I troubleshoot over and over again. One of them is about the difference between being influenced and imitating. One of them is about time management and making the most of that. So it's the 4 topics are juicy, as we like to say. So that's coming out as well. So if you want to dive deep between May 16th and 22nd, definitely check out Sweet Alchemy into the bargain.
Wonderful. Oh, it just makes me feel all tingly because it just sounds so good. It's going to be awesome. So as I mentioned before, I'll link to all of KellyAnn's stuff below the video. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This just reminded me of all the things I adore about you. You're just a wellspring of inspiration and passion and authenticity, and you are truly a gift to all of us. So thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for talking to me about business. It was good stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and just love you to pieces. Always want to squeeze your face. And it's always really lovely to talk to you, babe. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.